Carthage, a Phoenician colony founded in the 9th century BC, grew into a mighty empire. It was a dominant power in the western Mediterranean. Carthage controlled a vast network of trade routes. Its wealth came from trade, especially the trade of purple dye. Carthage boasted a formidable navy and a powerful army. However, the core of its army was not entirely Carthaginian. Carthage heavily relied on mercenaries. These were professional soldiers from different regions like Gaul, Iberia, and Africa. They fought for Carthage for pay and plunder. This reliance on mercenaries had its advantages. It allowed Carthage to field large armies quickly. It also freed its citizens from constant military service. However, it also had its downsides. Mercenaries were loyal to their paymasters, not to Carthage. This inherent flaw in Carthage's military system would come back to haunt them. The seeds of the devastating mercenary war were sown in this over-reliance on foreign soldiers. The First Punic War, which lasted from 264 to 241 BC, was a long and brutal conflict between Rome and Carthage. It ended in a Carthaginian defeat. Carthage was forced to cede control of Sicily to Rome and pay a massive indemnity. This crippled the Carthaginian economy. The loss of Sicily was a blow to Carthaginian pride and trade. The indemnity imposed by Rome further drained their treasury. Carthage was struggling to recover from this defeat. The Carthaginian Senate, facing a financial crisis, decided to defer the payment of their mercenaries. This decision, made in desperation, would have dire consequences. The mercenaries, who had fought bravely for Carthage, were angered. They had not received their due payment. They grew increasingly restless and agitated. The situation was volatile. Carthage, grappling with its own problems, failed to gauge the severity of the situation. The mercenaries, feeling betrayed, began to organize. What started as murmurs of discontent escalated into open rebellion. The mercenaries, feeling cheated and disrespected, decided to take matters into their own hands. The flames of the mercenary war were ignited. In 241 BC, the mercenaries led by Spendius, a Campanian, and Matho, a Libyan, revolted. They marched on Carthage, their numbers swelling with disgruntled Africans who had also suffered under Carthaginian rule. The Carthaginian Senate, initially dismissive of the threat, was now in panic. They hastily assembled a citizen army, but it was no match for the experienced and enraged mercenaries. The mercenaries, fueled by anger and a thirst for revenge, laid waste to the Carthaginian countryside. The situation spiraled out of control. The once mighty Carthage was now facing an existential crisis. The mercenaries besieged Carthage, cutting off its supply lines. They captured Tunis, a strategic city near Carthage. This was a major victory for the rebels. The siege of Tunis was a turning point in the war. It proved the mercenaries were a formidable force. It also showed the Carthaginian Senate the gravity of the threat. Carthage, facing starvation and defeat, needed a leader who could turn the tide. Faced with this crisis, Carthage turned to Hamilcar Barca. A brilliant general, Hamilcar was given command of the Carthaginian forces. Hamilcar, realizing the mercenaries' strength lay in their disunity, used cunning strategies. He sowed discord among the different mercenary groups, exploiting their ethnic and tribal rivalries. He also employed guerrilla tactics, harassing the mercenaries' supply lines and avoiding open battles. Gradually, Hamilcar began to turn the tide of the war. Hamilcar's strategies started to yield results. The mercenary forces, plagued by internal divisions and facing constant harassment, began to weaken. The final battle took place near the Bagradus River. Hamilcar, using a clever maneuver, trapped the mercenaries in a narrow valley. They were slaughtered mercilessly. The rebellion was crushed. Spendius and Matho were captured and executed. The mercenary war had finally ended. The victory came at a heavy price for Carthage. The war had lasted for 3 years and had devastated the Carthaginian economy. More importantly, it had exposed the weakness of Carthage's reliance on mercenaries. It had also created a deep rift between Carthage and its African subjects. The war had a profound psychological impact on Carthage. It instilled a deep fear of rebellion and strengthened the resolve to never be humiliated again. This, in a way, set the stage for the Second Punic War against Rome. The Mercenary War was a brutal and costly conflict. It highlighted the inherent dangers of relying on foreign soldiers and the fragility of a state built on mercenary strength. The war left Carthage deeply scarred, economically weakened, and politically unstable. It served as a grim prelude to the even more devastating Punic Wars against Rome, which would ultimately lead to Carthage's destruction. Want more epic tales? Check out the channel for more information and hundreds of other history videos. Thank you for watching.